Video marketing is only for big brands with big budgets. That is absolutely not true, and I'm going to talk you through why that is. Hello and welcome to Engage and Thrive, also known as EAT, your coffee catch-up with me, your host, Taelon, where we will go through common problems and hurdles that come up in business, marketing and advertising and try and demystify them. I know firsthand how complicated and confusing it can seem with all the different acronyms and all the things to do in business. So let me try and help you be better in business. First things first, let's start with grabbing a coffee. To myth bust this, with the quality of a camera on a phone nowadays, Android or iPhone, it's just so good that you don't need to be a professional photographer, videographer to record video content. To give you an example, this is a video podcast recorded from an iPhone. And I suppose just to add to that though, it really does depend on you as a brand and how you want to showcase your brand as to the quality of video that you want. So there are some big brands that will want video production done by a videographer, done professionally. But again, we'll go into this further in the takeaways about the reason of when you may want to use video content from your phone or when you may want to use a videographer. I think as well, just to bear in mind, is video content is so much on the rise right now that, and it's obviously become one of the most engaging forms of content, that people are still finding their feet about what content is good content. And again, depends on your target audience as to the type of content that they would want from you in video format. So the best thing to think about as we go through this is just, it's always good to get started and try, but we'll go through how and what you can do and tools to use. Let's go through vocab. So the first one is short form video. So this typically is anything that's between 30 to 60 seconds. People would call short form video, and it may even be up to 90 seconds, so a minute and a half. Which in the next context, obviously long form video is typically videos that are 5 to 10 minutes. But actually, if you use that, it should be anything over 90 seconds. The next one is UGC. So this is user generated content. And I keep saying I always get tongue twisted around that acronym. And that is basically when your customers or fans of your brand are creating content for you, which if you have people that are really into social media, they may be really into creating video content for you that you can use. The next one is sound bites. So this is, you'll see a lot more on social media where people are talking about the hook and engaging and grabbing people's attention. And a sound bite, I know it says sound, but can be used in a video form to basically have a snippet of content, so short form video, where it's used to really like grab the audience and get them to want to watch more, want to watch your long form video, or want to go to your website, or want to submit a lead form because they're dying to know that information. The next one is A/B testing. We've used this many times in different episodes, and that is typically where you have two variations of the same thing. So in this context, that maybe you have a video with two different thumbnails or two different descriptions, or the same video on two different platforms, and you want to see which performs better. So you're testing A and B. It can also be A, B, C, D, E, F, G. You could have numerous tests. The next one is intro and outro. So this is when you may decide to have a beginning or ending segment that you put into all your videos. Typically, this is used in more longer form video, or like, for example, with my podcast, I always have a podcast intro after the Misconception, but it's a way of actually having people recognize your beginning or your end, or having a clear message that you want to deliver. Again, if it's a video, you may want to put your logo on the end of the video, or you may have a call to action for people to subscribe on YouTube or whatever it is, but you have a beginning intro and an ending outro. And the final one is B-roll. So this is basically using other video content to supplement your main content. That sounds confusing, but I'll explain in the takeaways how this can be used and what this means. Today, we're going to go through 3 key takeaways around video marketing. The first one, number 1, understand the video content. So there's lots of things that kind of go into this about understanding the video content. So the first thing to consider is, where are you going to be using said video content? Are you going to be doing it on social media, on your website, sending as WhatsApp messages, sending it as part of emails? You need to decide where you're thinking of using that video content. And also you need to think about the themes for your video content. So you may decide to come up with your themes first and then decide where to put it, or you may decide where you want it to go, and then decide your themes. And your themes may be things like product demos, behind the scenes, meet the team, brand awareness. So it's more just talking about your brand in totality. But using those two things, you need to kind of match up themes and where it's going to go to understand then what type of theme you want to put on each platform. And the other thing is to consider is the platform audience demographic. So if you're going to be using YouTube, for example, because you've decided you want to do product demos on YouTube and then you want to pull that video into your website, typically people are used to more longer form content on YouTube, and they use YouTube as like a search way of looking up your product demos. So you then might think, okay, we need to then do some shorter form content on other platforms to drive the traffic to the longer form content on YouTube. So really understanding what the purpose of your video is going to be and why you're doing the video content in the first place. Actually have a strategy and plan it out. What's the themes that you want to cover off? What platforms you want to be going on? And what is that platform about? So what is that audience about, or what are they expecting from you in the forms of type of content? The next one, number 2, leverage tools. I'm all about tools making your life easier, especially when it comes to video marketing. So I'm not a videographer and my skill set is not in videos, but having the right tools in place can make your life a whole lot easier. So the first tool is actually called Loom. And this is a way of screen recording and also showing your face. So you may want to use this if you're doing product demos or service demos or anything when you want to show someone around, but actually humanize that content a bit more. It's a free tool. I think you've got up to like 5 minutes for free and a certain number per month, but that's a really nice one, really, really simple if you want to get started. Then other tools that you may want to think about using is Canva, CapCut, InShot. You don't need to use all of them. You can pick one. You can decide whatever's easiest for you. But again, all free tools, and then you can actually pay for more premium features. But you can use those for video editing, adding animations, auto captions, translating captions, doing templates, adding your branding on, your intro, your outro, you name it, you can do it within those tools. Then the other thing you might want to think about is actually using AI tools. So again, I'll link all of this in the show notes. There's one called Leonard AI. There's obviously Sora, which is by the same people that made ChatGPT. And there's another one called Pictory. So you could type in a prompt for it to generate a video for you. Now, I don't suggest to use this if you want to be showcasing people because it's AI and they don't always do people nicely, or if you want to be doing something to showcase your brand or product. But if you need to create like an environment or a background scene or B-roll, and I'll explain how this would work, you can use AI to create that kind of scene for you. So then if you're using those scenes, you may use a voiceover then to be talking about something. So if you were giving an example of your product or your app is for someone who's on a commute, right? You may then have a scene of like trains and a gloomy London, for example, okay? That scene can be generated really nicely in London. Whereas if you had to go and do that video shoot on site, getting that gloomy scene, that might be really expensive. And then you can use a voiceover of you recording or getting an AI tool to actually do a voiceover for you, talking about that scene. And then you would then cut a part of your video to then your product or your service or content that you've created. So it's a really nice way of integrating both the AI tools and the humanizing of the tools. The other thing to think about with this leveraging the tools is if you're doing screen recordings or your AI content, or actually you've recorded some content in person of a product or service or environment or your restaurant or whatever the situation is, you don't have to have your face on that content. And I know it can be really scary to think about, I need to be recording and how do I remember and do I need a script and everything. Oh, again, there are tools that you can have scripts on screen that you could be reading off it. I'll link that as well. But that can be really scary. So people talk about being faceless marketing, and that's just meaning you're not having someone being a talking head like what I'm doing right now as your video marketing. And number 3 is test and learn. This is probably the most important part of doing your video marketing. Test and learn is actually the most important part of doing any marketing, because the idea is no matter what you're doing, as long as you're looking at your metrics and seeing the performance and then acting on that performance, so something that's doing really well, doing more of it, or something that you can see trends in and trying it out, or if things don't work, don't be afraid to stop doing it and turn it off. So in the context of video marketing, you need to think about engagement metrics. So this is things like watch time, which YouTube is really, really good at telling you your watch time. They're also very good at telling you when people would drop off from actually watching a video. So you can see, okay, people are getting bored after 3 minutes in my long form video. What can I change up? What can I A/B test? The same with Facebook, and if you use Meta Business Suite, that can tell you some of your drop off rate on your videos. YouTube is obviously, I would say, the king of videos, as in the YouTube platform has had video content for a long time. So the metrics that it reports are a lot better than Meta or TikTok Studio or anything like that, because those platforms are catching up. But when you want to think about tracking those engagements, so watch time, likes, shares, saves, comments, reactions, whatever you're getting to your content, those are engagement metrics. And then think about those engagement metrics and think about what you can do next. So again, if you're thinking about the theme of your content and your A/B testing, you may look at the different themes and see the best performing theme, and that's the one you want to invest your time in to actually leverage. So it might be that your product demos people are not that bothered about, so actually you could leave that as website content. But actually every time you post a video about your team, you get loads of likes, loads of shares, loads of comments. Jump on that and utilize it. The other thing to think about with your test and learn and your A/B testing is the different variations of things you can A/B test, right? So you can A/B test a thumbnail, which is basically when you upload a video, what's the preview image that people see. Again, this can be easily done and changed on YouTube. Facebook, you typically have to upload and pick when you upload a reel, but you can actually do an A/B test of a cover photo that actually have that feature enabled. If you're uploading to Instagram, you can't typically change your cover image, so that's something you're kind of stuck with. But I assume in the future they may roll out the ability to change that or test it, because it's owned by the same company that owns Facebook. If you're uploading to TikTok, again, you can't do any tests, so something to bear in mind of what you have as your preview image. Other things to A/B test, your descriptions. So descriptions are really important. What you have as your first initial hook line sentence on your video, and then what you have as your longer description. Again, if you're doing longer form content, this may differ on YouTube and Facebook to if you're doing Reels or YouTube Shorts or anything like that. Other things to think about testing is your format of video. So do you want to do it as a mobile first, so you're doing it portrait, or are you looking to do it landscape because more people are going to be watching your video content on desktop? And again, this all comes back to where you're going to be putting your videos and the purpose of using it. So if it's because you want to attract people to your brand and you're going to be posting it all on social media, you may opt for the mobile first and do shorter form content. If it's going to be going on your website and it's actually more explanations about you as a business and your product or service, you may choose to do desktop as landscape because you know people are going to be a bit more engaged and do longer form content. Or if it's that you want to use it as a campaign and you're going to be sending it to people in WhatsApp, you probably want to keep it really short, really simple, really sweet, and use that soundbite form of content. You know, we're talking about what's the hook, what's the engagement, how do you grab their attention. So it really, really does all come back to understanding the content. But whatever you're doing, don't be afraid to A/B test. So don't be afraid to try it. And I always say this, don't be afraid of what doesn't work. A doesn't work situation is a great learning because at least you've tried. No harm in trying. As a wrap up, hopefully I've showcased to you how you can use your phone to create video marketing and leverage tools to actually do it just as good as big brands with big budgets that you may think. But to bear in mind, you need to remember your video marketing should be as authentic as it can be to your brand. And that's why I was giving you the warning of if you're going to use AI to produce any videos, just be careful, especially if you're trying to get it to produce humans, because humans are watching that content and they will see it's not real. But there is nothing stopping you getting started to try video marketing from today. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Engage and Thrive with your host Taelon, and see you next week.